and welcome Mindsetters to this session of grade 12 maths literacy. Hope you guys are ready. Actually, on that note, I want to say something special. Make sure you guys stay tuned on today's show specifically because we've got Rob Macefield from the Mathletics who's going to be coming to talk to us about the Essay Maths Challenge. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But for now, I'm here with Peter, who's going to be taking us through today's show. Peter?
I think you just insulted me and you don't know that. Okay. You actually told the viewers to stay tuned because someone great's coming on. I mean, like, what am I here? Hey,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's too late. You messed that one up. Folk, it's Thursday. Thursday means two things. Number one, it means it's time for mathematical literacy. And number two, our sound technician back yonder said it means it's 2:45 Friday. And I like that. I've never heard that phrase, but Ibrahim, I like that phrase. Well done. So welcome, it's 2:45 Friday, which means it's time for mathematical literacy. Today, what we're going to actually be doing is we're going to be looking at graph work. Okay? Now, graph work can be quite simple, but it can also get quite complicated. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a very basic graph work kind of question. Okay? And then we're going to go on to more complicated stuff. Right.
All right.
I'm going there. You do your thing. See you just now.
All right. Cheers. So on that note, Mindsetters, make sure you get on the page. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Make sure you know the link, www.facebook.com/learnextra. Get on the page. Let me know what you guys are thinking. If you're lost and if you need help, make sure you post it up because as I always say, I cannot help you if you do not help yourself by getting on the page so I can get those questions from the page to Peter. It's a pretty simple process because the thing is we can't read your mind as much as we would love to, and then we'd make this whole process easy. Like imagine if you could read your teacher's mind. That'd be so awesome. But anyway, make sure you get on the page and chat to me. Let me know what you guys are thinking. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Peter. Peter, take it away.
All right, before we even get started, people have been asking kind of questions, and my wife even asked me this question. She says, why is it on TV you look so much fatter? Well, I'm going to explain why, all right, because I know people that know me as a slim, trim guy, but on TV I kind of look a lot bulkier. And the reason for that is there's twofold. Number one, normally at the back here there's attached a whole, box thing which has got all the sound in it, and then number two, they fill us with kind of padding in the front to help with that sound. So normally if I take the padding off and take the bar, I'm really a slim guy, but that's the real reason why. And you know what, sometimes as well it looks distorted on TV. Okay, I actually go for jogs every morning and things like that, so I just wanted to clear that up there for all you viewers. Okay,
but Peter,
so, yeah.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
But why don't I look like you, though?
Because your voice is not as important as mine. Right, now, if we look at this, what we've got is a question on graph work, and I see to you we're going to start on a very basic question and then make it more complicated. So let's go for it. Jane participated in a sponsored 20-kilometer walk to raise funds for AIDS orphans. The organizer encouraged the walkers to have a 15-minute rest during the walk. The graph showing the distance covered by Jane against the time taken by her is given below. Okay, so here's our graph, and we have Jane, and she's quite a wonderful person because she's going to try and raise money for orphaned AIDS victims. Okay, so that's what she's doing, and so she's going on this walk. And so someone who's very bored is plotting her speed against the distance that she's covered. And so what they've said is this, that at 7 o'clock, she's covered no distance whatsoever. Why is that? I suppose that is because she hasn't started the race. So it looks like from our graph behind us that at 7 o'clock in the morning is when the race is actually starting. And then she's going to walk. And she walks and she walks and she walks and she walks. And something happens here at 9 o'clock. And then something happens here at this time, and we'll talk about that soon. And then she walks and she walks and she walks again. Okay, now let's read the questions. First question, at what time did the walk start? Guys, we've just discussed that, hey? Can you see what I actually did? I looked at the material that was given to me. Okay, and I looked at it and tried to analyze it for myself before even looking at the question. Now we've looked at the question and already I can know what the answer is. Why? Because I've analyzed a lot of that stuff in my mind already. I've already looked at it, drawn a lot of conclusions from it. Now I'm looking at the question, and it's going to make my answer, it's a lot easier for me to answer those questions. Okay, so what time did the race start? There it is, folk. We started at 7 in the morning. Next question. How many kilometers did Jane walk during the first hour? Okay, well, if she started at 7 o'clock in the morning, and an hour later will be 8 o'clock. Now, that means that's the distance she's covered. And if we draw a line along there, we'll see she covered 6 kilometers. Straightforward. There's nothing hard about this. Okay, nothing hard about it at all. Let's move on. My next question says this. How far had Jane walked by 10 o'clock? Okay, so here's 10 o'clock. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, at 10 o'clock, let's draw a line and see how far she's walked. So we're going to try and draw a relatively straight line. And there it is. And we're going all the way up. And that's how far she's walked. Okay? So how far is that? Well, if we draw another line across, we're going to say, well, that is at this distance over here. Which is what? It's going to be at 16.5 kilometers. Okay. Again, folks, there's nothing difficult about this, but I told you this question was easy. All right? So we're just learning to read off the graphs. Next one. How long did Jane take to walk the first 9 kilometers? Right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 9 kilometers. Oh my Gideon, I don't know what I've done here, but I know I shouldn't have done that. So let's just get rid of that. And the whole page has just jumped away. I don't know why that has happened to me. But these things, there we go.
There we go.
Okay. It's always a bit of a relief when like things go wrong, and that's not the relief. The relief is when things come right again. Okay, so let's try it again. The question did say, how long did Jane take to walk 9 kilometers? So I'm going to start at 9 kilometers and draw a line, and there it is at that particular point. If we draw another line down, we can see that she actually got to the 9 kilometer mark at 8:30. But that's not the question, hey? The question is, how long did it take her to walk? Well, if she started at 7 o'clock, and at 8:30 got to the 9 kilometer mark, she's taken from 7 to 8, which is an hour, 8 to 8:30, half an hour, 1.5 hours. Okay, so that's my answer. Quite simply, it's taken her 1.5 hours. Right, next one. After how many hours of walking did Jane rest? Okay, now, guys, whether we like it or not, this kind of question you're going to see repeatedly in your grade 11 year. And here's a little hint. You're going to see it quite often in your grade year. Why? Because when I look at all the past papers, there's always, or not always, but a lot of the time, this kind of question comes in. And the question that they always ask is, when has she stopped walking? Or when has he stopped walking? Or when did he stop driving? When did he stop to get petrol? Okay? And it's when, take note, at 9 o'clock in the morning, he's covered, and let's draw a straight line here. Okay, I'm going to use yellow. Why? Because I want to. At 9 o'clock in the morning, he's covered 12 kilometers. By 9:15, now let's have a look at this. This is 9 o'clock over here. Over here is 9:30, so I presume halfway means 9:15. Okay. Now, at 9:15, here it is. She's still, where? At the 12 kilometer mark. That means when she got to 9 o'clock, she was 12 kilometers. 9:15, she was still 12 kilometers. So what's that mean? That means she went and then she took a break. Okay? And she just sat there for 15 minutes, watching the crowd go by. After 15 minutes, she started walking again. So, we know she stopped at that point. Let's read the question. After how many hours of walking did Jane rest? Well, she started resting at 9 o'clock. She started at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, folk, 2 hours. Okay? So that answer is straightforward. After 2 hours of walking. Take note, doesn't say what time. It says after how many hours. Right, let's move on to our next question. Our next one says this. Give an estimate of the time at which Jane finished the walk. Now, it does ask us for an estimate, and the fact that it asks us for an estimate tells me quite clearly I'm not going to be able to read that answer accurately off my graph. So it's got to be an estimate. So let's have a look. What time does she finish the walk? Okay, so let's go all the way up here. Do you notice she finishes the walk at that point? At this point over here, it is 10:30. At this point over here, it's 10:15. She finishes just before 10:30. So what I'm going to do, let's rub all that out because it looks rather messy and yucky. What I'm going to do then is say this. If this is 15:15 and this is 30:30, if I break it into thirds, then I've got 5-minute intervals. Do you agree? 9:15, 9:20, 9:25, 9:30. Now, by looking at this graph very carefully, you can see the red line doesn't quite make it at 9:25. So I would say it's after, after 10:25. So I'm going to say let's go for 10:27 or 10:28 or even 10:29. Okay, but you cannot say 10:30 because it wasn't exactly on that point. Happy? Also understand our examiners are nice. People that mark your papers, hopefully they're so nice. So hopefully they will say, you know, we're going to give or take. If the answer is 10:28, we're going to accept 10:27 and 10:29 as well. All right, because I know that's what I do with my papers, and hopefully other examiners are the same. Right, my next question. Here we go. Choose the graph that shows each projectile's height as time goes on. All right, now folk, we're now coming to paper 2 stuff, okay? And now what we've got to actually do is use our brains and do a little bit of thinking. This, what I'm going to do now, is not easy because there's a certain perception we're going to get in our mind that I'm going to tell you to take out of your mind right now, okay? Let's have a look at this. So what we're going to do is we're going to show each projectile's height as time goes by. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to throw something in the air and we are going to try and plot the graph of what we've thrown in the air. Now I'm looking around here and I've found a tin here, and so I'm going to throw this in the air and I'm going to catch it, hopefully. Yeah, there I did. Okay. And what we're going to do is we are going to try and plot the height of this thing as time goes by. Right, so let's read the question. Lydia fired a model rocket. Okay, we don't have a rocket. We've got to pretend this is a rocket, okay? She fires this rocket vertically upwards. So it goes straight up in the air and comes straight down again. Okay, so up it goes, loses its height, does a U-turn, and comes crashing back. And hopefully Lydia's run away by the time that's happened. Okay, she shoots it up into the air. Now, what graph best describes that projectile or that rocket when we're looking at the height and we're looking at time? This is a nice physics question as well, hey? So if you do physics, hey, pay special attention. All right. Now, a lot of people look at this and say, you know what? The rocket is doing this. It's taking off, going, ew, doof. No, it's not. No, it's not. This is not showing the path of the rocket. This is not showing the path of the rocket. It is showing what happens to the height as time goes by. Now, that's a difficult concept to try and understand because so many of us think, well, if I shoot a rocket, there's the graph, it means the rocket's doing this. No, it's not. She shot the rocket in the air, it did a U-turn and came down. So now what a lot of people are doing is saying, hey, check it, graph D, there it is. It's going up and it's coming down. Folk, remember these graphs are not showing the route of the rocket, okay? They are showing time or the height over a period of time. Now, if I shoot a rocket into the sky, okay, so we light it and it goes firing off, and there it goes. It's going to take off at quite a velocity, okay? So there it goes, shoots up, and then what begins to happen? gravity kicks in. And so the rocket is going to slow down. Okay, and it's going to go slower and slower and slower, and eventually it's going to kind of stop, and then it's going to come down. And as it begins to come down, it's going to fall faster and faster and faster and faster. Why? Because of gravity. Okay, I'm going to do a little experiment here, and I'm going to use Ty. So I'm going to ask Ty to come and stand next to me, and we're going to do this experiment. All right, Ty, come stand next to me. Here we are. Okay, there's Ty over here. Hope the camera's on us. All right. Yeah, show them your good side. Turn this way. Okay. Yes, no, I'm joking. All right, there we go. Now, Ty, I've got this can of beans, and what I'm going to actually ask you to is just to get on your knees. Hopefully, they'll still get you in the camera shot. Okay, the producer will shout at me if she can't get you, but I just want your head. That's all I want. Okay, so there we go. So, Ty, if you look up now, if I drop the can from this height, you're not going to worry, are you?
Not really. It'll kind of sting a little. But
okay, well, let's see. All right, so there we are. And now I drop it, and, oh, there's quite a cushion in this hat here. Okay, so I drop it, and it doesn't really hurt. You felt it, but it wasn't really bad. No. Okay, all right, now, Ty, if you look at, if I drop it now from this height, okay,
then I start getting worried immediately.
It might get hurt. If I drop it from this height, so Ty, now look at the camera, and don't panic, okay? And now when I drop it, let's see what happens. Okay, and no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Okay, all right. Ty, you can go back. Thanks. So what's actually happened? The can has remained the same mass or the same weight or whatever you want to call it. This is not a science program. We'll call it, I don't know, you're supposed to call it mass. Huh? It has the same mass. But, so why, when I drop it from this height, it doesn't hurt Ty very much. But if I drop it from here and I drop it on his head, it's going to hurt him. Why is that? It's the same can. Okay, it's the same head, all right? It's the same hollow thing it's going to hit, yeah? Okay, what's the difference? The difference is the speed at which it's going to strike him, and it's because of the gravity. So as something now goes up in the air, it slows down, slows down, slows down, because gravity is pulling it down. It turns, okay, or it's just going to come straight back down. So it goes up, and now it comes down. And it's going to go faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and then hit the ground. Let's see which graph best describes that.
Do you think before we go into the next question, you think we should take a quick ad break?
Not really, but I suppose you've wrecked the whole atmosphere now, so let's take a break then.
It wasn't intentional. I just followed instructions.
Right, folks, looks like we're taking a break, huh?
All right, so mindset is make sure you do not disappear. Make sure you stick around, because, yes, again, make sure that you are here, because we will be talking to Rob real soon. So make sure you don't disappear. We'll see you after this break. And welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice little break. You went and did whatever you had to do. But now you need to be paying attention. Make sure that you got your pens and pads out and you're ready to make notes. So if your little brother's distracting you, mom's asking you questions, dad's wanting you to go and clean out the garage, whatever, you now need to pay attention. Get your pens and pads out, as I said. And make sure you're writing notes, because right now we're going to continue. I'm handing it over to Peter. Peter, take it away.
I don't think we're supposed to be telling kids not to listen to their parents, eh?
But they have to do school. You can't ask me to do school and listen to my parents at the same time, because they want us to pass. You know, it gets complicated.
All right, let's get back to maths. So, folks, just before the break, what were we doing? We were looking at Lydia, who's got a rocket, and she shoots it straight up into the air. Okay, and then it comes down. But now take note, from the time she shoots it up to the air, time starts going, right? And so we start with a stopwatch and we go click, and we measure how high she's going over a period of time. Remembering that as our rocket's getting higher and higher, it's slowing down. Why is it slowing down? Because gravity is pulling on it. And then it gets to a point where it stops, and now it starts to fall down again. And as it comes closer and closer to the ground, the speed increases, and it goes faster and faster and faster until it hits the ground. So, what graph best illustrates what we've just spoken about? Let's start with graph D. Guys, it can't be graph D. And the reason it can't be, because according to this graph, we start time at a specific point and we end time at that point. So in other words, what we're saying is she lights the rocket and it goes vroom, vroom, and no time's gone past. Now that's impossible. That can't happen. So we know it's not that graph. If we look over here, we can see a graph. Now remember, this is not the path the rocket's taking. It's not at all. Okay? It's looking at time over height. So this graph is saying at this point, we're at this height. And we stay at this height right up into this point. In other words, if this is my rocket and I shoot it up, it's going to get to a point and it's going to stop. It's not going to get any higher. And we're going to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then it's going to come down. Guys, that doesn't happen. Not at all. So it can't be graph C. If we look at graph B, what we're saying is we're going to start at a height, and as time goes along, the height is going to reduce. Well, that can't happen, because if I shoot a rocket up, it's going to go up, isn't it? Of course it is. The height's going to get higher. It's not going to go lower, so it can't be graph B. Well, that leaves graph A, but let's just make sure it makes sense. As time goes, the rocket's going to go higher and higher. There, as time's going, you can see the rocket's going higher, 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 higher. And then it gets to a point and the rocket now becomes lower and lower and lower. See the height? It's getting lower and lower as time is moving on. Now, I just moved that whole thing there. Okay, there we go. Right. So it has to be graph A. Let's go on to the next question, because we've got a similar one to that. Right. Now, the next question is this. While standing on the top of a building, Alex threw a ball upwards into the air. The ball landed on the ground. Okay, so let's draw a diagram here. So here I have a building, and here's little Alex. Okay, here's my artistic flair coming out in this program. So Alex has got a little ball here, and he throws it up into the air, and then it comes down. Now, we're not sure the path of that ball. He could have thrown it like this, or he could have thrown it straight up and it came straight down. But what we do know is he's standing on a building, he throws it up, and it passes him and it goes all the way down. So we know he's starting at a certain height. The height's going to go high, and then it's going to go low. So let's have a look now at these graphs. Okay? Look here. Here we're starting at the ground. Well, that can't be true. Okay, let's get a different color. Here we go. That can't be true. Why not? Because we're not starting at the ground. Okay, let's look at B. B, we're starting at the ground, or up here somewhere, but the height's going down. Well, that's not true, because we said we threw it up in the air, and then it came down to our level, and then even lower, right? So here it is here. Let's have a look at this graph. He's starting at a specific height. The height is increasing. Now this is encouraging. The height's going up. And then look what happens. Over a period of time, it stays the same height. Now, that's not possible. I'm standing on a building. I throw the tin up, and it just hangs in the air. Okay? It hangs there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then comes plummeting down. Guys, that's not possible. So we know it can't be C graph either. Let's have a look at B. As time is going, so the height is changing the whole time. It's going higher and higher and higher, and then it goes lower and lower. Look, that's where we're starting from. So we're on this building. It goes to a height, comes past us. Oops. It comes past us, and then comes all the way down to the ground. So I would say D is my option. But remember, whenever I answer that, the path that you're seeing, or rather the graph you're seeing, is not the path that my rocket or my tin or my soccer ball or whatever it is following. This you're seeing on the graph is showing the relationship between the height and the time. It's a difficult concept to understand, folk, but if you can understand it, hey, I tell you what, you're on your way to getting a level 7. Okay, my next question. Similar sort of thing. Now, Nathan shot his model rocket from the ground into the air. It landed on top of a building. So here we have Nathan. He's playing around with a rocket, okay? In fact, that's what happened after Christmas last year. I bought my son a lovely little rocket, okay? And he said, Dad, I want to play with it. I said, well, my boy, let's rather go down to the cricket field or the soccer field and we'll play with it there. Oh, no, Dad, I want to play with it right now. And that's what he did. So he shot it off from the ground, and of course it landed on the roof, and we never played with a rocket again for that day, okay? So exactly the same scenario. Now, which graph best describes it? Well, we can eliminate this graph instantly because it's saying it's starting and ending at the same point. So forget that. Over here, we're saying the starting and ending point's the same. In fact, it's not even on the ground. It's way up there. So we're shooting the rocket from up there. It's coming down and then going back up there. Well, that didn't happen. So we can forget graph B. Graph C is interesting. We're starting at the ground, okay? We're shooting it up into the air, right? And it's traveling at a constant speed. And then what begins to happen? Gravity then begins to pull it slower. So you can see it slowing down. It gets to a point, starts to go down, and then voila, hits a roof. And then you will notice as time goes by, it stays on the same height because it can't go through the roof. Okay? So the rocket's going up, it's going up, 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 starts to slow down, starts to come down, boom, on the roof. And no matter how long the time goes, it stays on that roof, stays on the same height. Okay, so I would say it's probably C. I don't think it's D because D, we're starting way up and we're landing on the ground. There's the ground, okay, because the height is 0 meters on the ground over there. So we know it's not D. There's one more I want to do like this, so let's have a look at this. Now, Roma fired a model rocket. It was a dud and did not lift off the ground at all. Oy, oy, oy. So now let's have a look at these 4 graphs. One of them describes the relationship between the height and the time. So what happens now is we've got this rocket, and so we light it, okay? And as we light it, we run away. But the rocket stays there. It doesn't go off at all, okay? Absolute dud. Hate that when that happens, okay? You're expecting something to go up, lights, explosions, and nothing happens. There it is, okay? And there it stays. So the rocket has not gone up at all. But has time stopped? No, time can't stop. So time has continued, but the rocket has stayed on the same level. So we know our rocket doesn't even take off. We know it doesn't even move, okay? Let's have a look here. It's on the ground. We light it. After a few seconds, it's still on the ground. A few more seconds, it's still on the ground. And after a whole lot of time, it's still on the ground. You know what? I would say graph C best describes that. Graph D doesn't because it shows it's taking off and going down. And you know what? The height's not changing at all. It's staying on the ground. Okay. Guys, I hope this is clear, hey? Okay. I've given this to my grade 12s as a portfolio piece. Put this question in. If any of them are watching, they're going to be like absolutely thrilled and say, hey, we know the answers. Okay. But I don't know if any of them are watching because I think they're doing all kinds of cross-country and music things and all kinds of weird and wonderful things. Okay, let's move on. Now, I've got another question that I'm going to give you. It's the good old-fashioned cell phone question. It's come up so often. Let's do it. It would be rather silly of me not to tackle this question, knowing how often cell phones are spoken about or the scenario of cell phones is used in a mathematical literacy paper. All right, let's read the question. The following table represents the rates charged by cellular network in South Africa when cell phones first arrived in the Republic. Using the table and the set of axes attached, sketch graphs illustrating the costs involved using each of the packages. All 3 graphs are to be drawn on the same set of axes. Okay? Peak time, now we are talking about peak time, and they tell us what peak time is a time during a weekday when phone calls are expensive. Okay, folk, we're going way back in time now, when cell phones first came to South Africa. And I remember when they first did. Oh, I hate saying that because it makes me seem so old, but I do, hey, I really do. But they weren't the nice little cell phones that we have nowadays that you can, in fact, I don't quite understand the logic of it. They seem to be making cell phones smaller and smaller and thinner, and it's easy to lose the things, okay? You sneeze and phew, off goes your cell phone. All right. Whereas in the old days, when I first was around when cell phones came out, they used to look like a brick. Seriously, okay? You couldn't even put this thing in your pocket because it was so big. You couldn't fit in your top pocket, wouldn't fit, so you used to carry this thing around. But that was okay because not many people had a cell phone in the good old days, and so it was a yuppie thing, okay? You were a real mano. You were a cool dude if you had a cell phone. So you wanted to make sure everyone saw you had one. So you'd walk around with this brick. Check, I got a cell phone. Check, I got a cell phone. Okay, you were proud of your cell phone. All right. Unfortunately, I never had one. I just used to look at all the other guys and think, oh, I wish I had one. Okay. So, in those days, this particular company, don't know what it was. We don't want to know what the company was. They had three possibilities of, or three different types of packages. The first package, package number one, says this. It's a pay-as-you-go, right? In other words, you go off, just like pay-as-you-go today. You go off to a shopping center, right? You go into a shop and say, I need 25 Rand airtime. They give you 25 Rand, and you go home, and guys, you phone your girl. And you talk, 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 and you talk. Well, you don't talk. Let's get real. She talks. She talks, and she talks, and she talks, and she talks, and next minute you don't hear her. And you think, oh, it's a miracle. No, it's not. The cell phone's just run out of time. So you go back to the shopping center and you buy some more airtime. And you phone her and she talks and she talks and she talks and she talks and she stops talking. You think, oh, it's a miracle. No, it's not. You've run out of more airtime. Okay? So pay as you go means as I'm paying, I can talk. If I run out of that airtime, I can't talk no more. All right? Now, free minutes, not applicable. You're not going to get any free minutes. The cost per peak minute is 3 Rand. These are important things we need to know. Then there was a package number 2. Package number 2 said, hey, you're going to give us 200 Rand every month. Before you've even made a call, you owe us 200 Rand. Why? Because we're going to call it a subscription fee. So what do I get? Why must I pay 200 Rand and this guy down here doesn't pay 200? Well, you're going to pay 200 for 2 reasons. Number 1, okay, in fact, for 1 reason only, actually, we are going to give you a cheaper rate. Instead of this here paying 3 Rand a minute, you only need to pay 2 Rand a minute. Now, that's great news, hey? Because you can phone your girlfriend, and she can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and that guy over there, his girlfriend, finishes talking because his time's run out, but you can still carry on listening to her. Okay, and she can talk and talk and talk and talk even more. Why? Your calls are only 2 Rand. Now, the package 3 says this. Your monthly subscription is 500 Rand. Oh my Gideon, 500 Rand and I haven't even made a call. Why? Well, for the following reason. Number 1, we're going to give you 200 minutes free, gratis. You can talk for 200 minutes and we're not going to charge you. Okay? So your girlfriend can talk and talk and talk. Just 200 minutes is a long time. Eh? Not for a woman, but generally.
Probably your battery will die first.
So she can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. 200 minutes and you haven't paid for it yet. Well, you have actually, hey? You've paid that subscription. The other reason is they're only going to charge you 1 Rand for talking per minute. Now, we're going to put this on a graph. And the first thing we're going to do is do this. Say, right. Here's my number of peak minutes that I talk, and this is the cost of it. Now, remember, our first package said this. If I don't talk, I'm not paying. After that, every minute that I talk, or every minute that my girlfriend talks to me, is going to cost me 3 Rand. So 100 minutes is going to cost me 300 Rand. 200 minutes, 200 times 3 is going to cost me 600 minutes. There it is over there. 400 minutes, 400 times 3 Rand is going to cost me a whopping 1,200 Rand. Okay? 1,200 Rand. There it is over there. Now, once we've plotted all these points, and I'm not going to plot them all, but once I've plotted these points, I can now draw a straight line. And guys, it has to be a straight line. Why? Because every minute is costing me the same amount of money. Remember, when I see a straight line, I know I'm dealing with something that's constant. In other words, something that is the same. Right? So each minute is 3 Rand. The 3rd and 4th minute is still 3 Rand a minute. The 20th minute is still 3 Rand a minute. Because of that, I've got a straight line. So what I'm going to attempt to do now is draw a straight line. So let's do that. So on yellow, here we go. We're going to start here. We're going to go through this point. I'm going to keep drawing, and hopefully it's going to fit into my graph over here. Let's keep going all the way, okay, right up to there. And that should be kind of a straight line, hopefully. Okay. There, we just cheat a bit and make it straight. Right. Now, what's my second package? My second package says this, that if I make no calls at all, I'm still going to be charged 200 Rand. Remember, that's what it said. I'm going to pay a monthly subscription of 200 Rand. So I don't talk to anyone. I buy my cell phone, and there it is. And I take out this package 2 contract, and I've got to pay 200 Rand. And I put my cell phone down, and now I watch it in anticipation, in the hope, in the absolute anxiety that somebody out there cares and someone's going to phone me, but nobody does. And so a whole month goes past and my phone hasn't rung. And then I get the bill, and the bill is 200 Rand. Why? Because there's a subscription fee of 200 Rand. So if we look at our graph, even if I haven't, and let's go green this time, even if I haven't made a call, I'm being charged 200 Rand. If I now make 200 minutes worth of calls, remember every minute is 2 Rand. So 200 minutes times 2 Rand is going to cost me 400 Rand. But not just the 400 Rand, because I also got to pay that subscription of 200. So it's going to cost me 600 Rand. There's the point right over there. Now, what happens if I talk for 400 minutes? Well, if I talk for 400 minutes, 400 times 2 is 800 Rand, but there's still that subscription of 200 Rand. So I'm paying the 800 plus the 200 just for having the contract, which is going to take me to 1,000 Rand, which is that point. And again, folk, we're going to draw it as a straight line. Why? Because every minute cost me the same. And so I'm going to attempt again to draw a straight line. Let's do that. So I'm starting at 200 this time, and I'm going to keep going. There I go, and I've got to just go up on the screen a bit so you can see it. Let's hopefully we still get this kind of straight, and there it is over there. And again, I'm going to cheat and just move that line. Okay, and that's that. And finally, I have to draw the line for package number 3. But I think we've got to take a break. I don't know. Producer, can we do it, or do we take a break?
I think we should take a break, huh?
Okay, no, she's telling me do it quick. So I listen to her. I'd really like to listen to you, but she's a woman. Got to do as she tells me. Right, so now the next package says this. You're going to pay 500 Rand. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm starting off, before I even make a call, I'm going to pay 500 Rand. So it's 200 to 400. 500 Rand is going to be, 400, 600, 500 Rand is over there. You see, I'm trying to be quick now, and it's scary. Okay, so we've got 500 Rand. But here's the exciting thing. Guys, the exciting thing is, do you remember package 3 said you get 200 minutes for free? So when I talk for 200 minutes, they're not charging me for it. I'm not going to pay anything, but I still got to pay that 500 Rand package subscription fee. So for the first, and I'm just going to draw it, I'm not even going to try and draw it straight. There it is. First 200 minutes, that's what I'm paying. How much am I paying if I talk for 400 minutes? Well, if I talk for 400 minutes, I'm getting 200 free. So I'm only paying for 200. And remember, each minute cost me a Rand. 200 times 1 is 200 Rand, plus the 500 subscription, 700. So we're going all the way up here to 700. So now that's what this graph is going to look like. Guys, you've got to know how to do that. If you can do that, you understand how to draw most of the graphs. I think now we've got to take that break.
We have to now. Okay, so mindsetters, make sure you stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, because right after this, we have Rob Macefield coming in, who's going to explain the SA Maths Challenge, and it's open to everybody who does math, not just math literacy, but maths core. So make sure you stick around, but we'll see you after this break. And welcome back, Mindsetters. Here I have Mr. Rob Macefield, who's going to be joining us for this session. Guys, I want you guys to basically welcome him. He's from Mathletics, and the guys is here to explain to you guys about the SA Maths Challenge that's going to be happening. So, Rob, tell us more about it. I heard the entry days are pretty much running out soon, so...
Entry is actually open still until Monday night, so we've still got 4 days. And it's best to register now because the warm-up period has started. So although you registered and the competition is on Tuesday and Wednesday, it's best to register now so you can practice and warm up and get all the answers right. And then at midnight on Tuesday, we'll start the competition.
All right, all right. And on that note, I do want to ask, so please explain to us, how does the maths challenge actually work?
Well, there's 2 days, so Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday is curriculum related. So when you register, preferably you'll get your teachers to register your class or your grade or your whole school. Then they will put in what grade you're in. You will do curriculum quizzes on the Tuesday. On the Wednesday, there's a whole bunch of fun where you race in 60-second races against people from all over the world. Whoever happens to be on the website at that time, and in any one day there's about 100,000 people.
Wow.
You can race against them and get a whole bunch of points for that.
Wow, so this is actually very fast paced. Wow, that's really impressive. So is there anything else you want more to tell us in terms of how you guys started out and like where you guys are heading with this?
Yes, the South African Maths Challenge is in September every year, and it's a lead-up event to the World Maths Day, which is in March every year. That forms part of the World Education Games, and we do that together with the United Nations Children's Education Fund to raise money for them, and also to break the Guinness Book of Records. So we've done that globally, 220 countries, 400 million questions answered. And we're trying to break that record in South Africa. So Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to try and see if we can get maybe 80,000 learners to take part, and we'll see how many questions you can answer.
All right. Wow, that sounds amazing. Like, if I wasn't as old as I am, I'd definitely love to win this awesome prize. But as I say, mindsetters, this is a fun challenge. Make sure you guys enter. You can enter on their website, www.samathschallenge.co.za. Make sure you go to the website, tell your teachers, and get all your friends to enter, because as you heard from Mr. Rob, we're trying to break a record. That's what we're trying to push here in Mindset Excellence. But on that note, this is where we now hand over to Peter. Peter, take it away.
All right, before we go there, Robert, just want to ask you, the website details, we've got it, haven't we, Ty? So we can put it on our webpage so viewers can actually see it.
Page,
on the Facebook page.
It's samathschallenge.co.za.
Pretty simple.
Sounds quite easy. Even I can do that. If I can do it, guys, you can too. All right. Rob, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. All right, folk. We're going to carry on now with our questions. Remember, we're looking at graph work. And at the moment, we're starting to look at paper 2 type questions. Okay? And this kind of question now comes up, and it now is going to link graph work with some financial mathematics. Oh, we haven't done that very often. Okay? So that's what we're going to do now. So let's have a look. Below is a graph that shows what happened to Mr. Ndlazi's investment of 35,000 Rand. He deposited the money into a bank which offered him 8.5% interest calculated annually. Okay. Now, guys, you've always seen this type of question, all right? Let me highlight it here, or just show you this. Normally, you would come across a question like this that I've circled in green. Mr. Ndlazi invested 35,000. He deposited the money into a bank which offered him 8.5% interest calculated annually, right? And then it would say to you, how much money does he have in the bank after how many years? After the period of time, whatever it is. Okay. Now what we're doing is we are showing it to you on a graph. We've never done that before. Okay, but you could get that in an exam question. In fact, you students out there who write the IAB exam, I think you got this in your final exam 2 years ago, the matrics. Okay, so you matrics, there's nothing to stop the IAB examiner saying, "Oi, let's do this." There's nothing to stop the government examiners saying, "Oi, let's put this kind of question in." So let's have a look at it. Okay, so he puts money in, and he puts in 35,000 Rand. Can you see it's been plotted here on our graph? That's the point A. Okay, now he puts it in at 8.5% interest, and the money starts to grow. And this white graph here shows how the money is growing. You can see how it's beginning to curve up. And eventually it stops growing at point B. Why does it stop growing? Well, because obviously Mr. Lazi's going to take the money out. Okay? After how long? Well, here it's telling us the number of years. And we can see that it's 20 years. So after 20 years, he's now got a certain amount. Now, what kind of question can we ask? Well, let's have a look at it. Question number 1 says this. What is the value of A? Guys, that's straightforward, isn't it? Because it tells us that it's 35,000 Rand. So if it's 35,000 Rand, that's the amount of money we're depositing. So my answer is straightforward. We're depositing 35,000 Rand. That's what we put into the bank when our investment first started. What's the next question? Our next question is this. The interest offered is compounded rather than simple interest. How can you make the conclusion from the shape of the graph? Now, do you remember if I put simple interest, what's happening with my interest? My interest is growing at a constant rate, okay? It never changes. Why? Because I'm being given interest on the amount of money I put in the bank. So I put money in the bank and the interest rate goes up a certain amount. Then I put the money, that whole money in the bank, and the interest rate carries on going up at a set rate. So if I've got a straight line showing interest, I know it's simple interest. Okay? It's a simple graph, straight. Compounded interest is like a compounded graph. It's a difficult graph. Now let's have a look at the shape of this graph. Now I hope you can see it, but it's not a straight line. In fact, if I were to condense this whole graph and draw it in that kind of shape, that's what it would be doing. Okay? So you can't really see that shape. Why? Because of the set of axes that I've chosen here, or because of the scale on the axis I've chosen. But that's basically what it's doing. And if you look at that white graph, you can see it's curving at a slight angle. Okay? That tells me straight away I'm dealing with compound interest. Why? Because compound interest is interest on interest. So my investment is getting more and more and more and more and more. You know the difference between simple interest and compound interest, okay? Simple interest, we're just being charged interest on the amount of money, or we've been given interest rather in this case, on the amount of money we have in the bank. Compound interest, we're getting interest on the money we put in the bank plus the interest we've already earned. So now, in year 2, we're getting interest on the amount of money we put in the bank plus that interest we got. So my investment is getting higher and higher and higher and higher. Okay, my next question says this. Calculate the value of B. What's the value of B? The value of B is the final amount I have in the bank after 20 years. So calculate the value of B, the value of the investment after 20 years. And guys, again, there's no trick here because they give us the formula. And they tell us the formula is A is equal to P bracket 1 plus I close bracket to the power of N. So let's use it. So I've got now A equals P 1 plus I to the power of N. Instead of A, it's like that number B, okay? Or like the letter B. Remember, that's what we're trying to find over here. So that's what we're trying to find. Now, what was P value? P value is the initial investment. And we said the initial investment was 35,000 Rand. So I'm putting 35,000 Rand into the bank. 1 plus. Now, what's my interest rate? Now, we've got to go all the way back to the question because I've already forgotten what that is. The interest rate is 8.5% interest compounded annually. So it's actually a very simple compound question. We're not saying compounded monthly at all. Compounded annually. 8.5%. How do we write 8.5%? Do you agree that 8.5% can be written like 8.5 over 100? If I did that on my calculator, and let's do it. Let's go. 8.5 over 100, okay, equals, push S to D, and there we get it. 0,085. So I'm going to write it as 0,085. Now, N means the number of calculations. And we're doing it for 20 years. So I'm going to say to the power of 20. Now, folk, calculator, you do the rest for us, please. We're sitting back, and we're just going to push a few buttons. So I've got 35,000, bracket, 1 plus 0 point, and what was it again? 0.85. It's lovely, this thing. We can move it all over the screen. 0.85, close bracket, to the power of 20 equals. And my answer is a whopping 178,000. Will you remember this, Ty? Because I won't remember it, hey? 178,921 Rand, 61 cents. Okay, you got it, Ty? Let's see how reliable you are. Okay, so it was 178,921 Rand and I don't know. Okay, so let's just bring up the calculator. And 61 cents. All right, and 61 cents. Okay, so that's the value of B, folk. There it is there, 179,000. So I put 35,000 Rand into a bank at 8.5% interest, and I leave it. I go away, okay? And off I go. Shall I go away? Let me go away. So I go away. 20 years later, I come back again. And I go to the bank and they say, you know what? You have got 179,000. Oh, how wonderful is that? Okay, right. Another question. I think we've got time. Let's go. Next one says, if the interest rate were calculated monthly and not yearly, then determine which set of graphs would best illustrate this. Explain your reasoning. Okay, let's have a look at this. Whoa, this is a deep question, guys. Deep stuff. But oh, if you can answer this, then you understand compound interest so nicely. So I can calculate my compound interest on a yearly basis, or I can calculate it on a monthly basis. Right. In other words, if I put money in the bank, they can say, right, after a year, let's add the interest. Or if I do it monthly, they say, after a month, let's add the interest. After the next month, let's add the interest. Now, guys, I would rather do it that way because I'm getting interest, and then they're calculating my amount of money based on that interest I've put on. And then I've got a little more interest, and then a little more interest. So you're going to get more money out. And if I had time, I'd do it, but we don't have the time today. But if I had time, I'd do it, and I'd show you that putting money or calculating money monthly is a lot better than calculating it annually. So if I look at this, compounded yearly, that's how much I'm getting out. Compounded monthly, that's how much I'm getting out. Graph B says if I compound monthly, that's how much I'm getting out. If I compound yearly, I'm getting more out. Well, that's not true. You're going to get more money if you compound it monthly rather than yearly. Guys, I'm absolutely horrified that our time has come to a grinding halt again. That's another Thursday. Come and gone, and it's 2:45 Friday. Okay.
It is 2:45 Friday. And I just want to say thank you again, Mindsetters, to everybody's on the page. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to Ashworth, regular. Thank you so much. I want to say I think that's it. I'm so sorry if I've butchered your name. Mahosi. I want to say Kakreko, thank you for joining us. I want to say Tisha, Wishy. Yes, your Facebook name is very interesting. And I just want to say again, Mindsetters, get on the page, talk to each other. Lutendo, just want to say thank you for also being on the page. Anissa, always nice to see you. But this is where I say thank you and see you next time.